we use when we're doing these workshops, right? And we're asking people like, share some common fetishes. And of course, it goes like feet, we get that. Okay, spanking. Okay, cool. Got that. And, people are just like, you'll see them, they'll cross their hands and they're rejecting, like, I don't have no weird, that's the word that comes off, like, weird sex behavior. And King will go, are you an ass or titty man? And it's like, titties all day, man. Titties all day. Boom. There's your fetish, right?
Welcome to Honey Do Me, a podcast that goes into the bedroom and beyond, hosted by Emma Norman
and Cass Anderson. Here at Honey Do Me, we don't have all the answers, so we chat with experts, educators, and badass changemakers to get them.
We are here to remind our listeners and ourselves that what we're going through is normal, that we are worthy of love and pleasure,
and that we are all in this together. So tell us, honey, how do you do you?
Sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it. 'Cause no one can do it like we do it, like we do it, like we do it.
3, 2, 1.
Impact play!
Today, we are getting excited, getting a little handsy, talking about fetishes like impact play, BDSM, submissive, dominant.
All the good stuff. So we are talking with jet-setting Jasmine. She is the co-owner of Royal Fetish Films with her partner, King Noir, and that is an award-winning adult content site. So she's a producer, a director, a performer. She's also a sex educator, an entertainer, and a therapist.
Truly a badass woman.
Truly such a badass.
Yeah.
Also a mom. So
and also
just
a mom.
all around such a
Yeah,
cool,
such a
amazing
superhero.
person.
So I can honestly say that I had no idea really what a fetish was.
Oh, me neither.
Before this
I thought I
conversation.
did.
I thought I did, but a lot
Like
of the
feet, right?
literally, that was my only example of what a fetish could be, because it's so often talked about in like a negative way.
Yes.
Not that feet fetish is a bad thing, but like people only associate it with like weird or like very like out there type of things.
Exactly. Like it's always kind of like gross and slimy and like something you have to keep to yourself.
Right.
I've never heard fetish talked about in this like positive, empowering way. Like it's something wrong,
Exactly.
not something right that you should incorporate.
Yeah, it's something that's wrong with you and don't talk about it.
Yes.
So
Emma's
I'm
pointing directly at me.
directly at you. So I think this was a beautiful conversation to open up like the space to explore what fetishes are, because I think like now that we have this conversation, it's like, oh, fuck yeah, I probably have a fetish.
I definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk about fetishes. We also talk about specific fetishes like impact play, because it's not two people just slamming their bodies together, which is what I thought.
Really?
When we first started talking about impact play, I was like, does that just mean hitting each other?
You're like as hard as you can.
Like,
you just run.
Just a right hook to the face. Or body slams. I literally didn't know what impact play was.
Well, we really got into it. How to do it, what to do it with, how to start out. We talk about how to implement fetishes, how to talk to a partner about fetishes.
Yeah, how to find what your fetish maybe is that you didn't even know, but like really analyzing what you're into.
It's so much fun. You're going to learn so much.
So much, and we'll just see you on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Ah. So I think we want to start with just what is a fetish?
Okay, so that is a very, very common question. And oftentimes people will tell you a specific fetish. When you say, what is a fetish? They'll go, feet. Right? Like that's like,
right.
Yeah, that is a fetish. So really, basic definition is a form of sexual desire in which gratification is linked to a particular object. Right? So the objectification piece. Object really could be anything that is not utilized for the purpose of procreation. So we like to kind of broaden it up just a little bit. There's a couple of definitions of fetish that we join together. So we like to think about it as sexual arousal in any way that is not for the purpose of procreation. So now let your mind wander.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow, that's a fetish, right? It's like, that's boring. But yeah, all of these, so many of our sexual acts that are directly related to our sexual arousal. So that thing that you have to, that thing that you really, really need to take you over the top, that has nothing to do with getting you pregnant, might very well be your fetish.
Okay.
That's so much more of an inclusive way to think about it. And I feel like if we had that definition put out there more, people would stop shaming the word fetish so much or being so cringy at the word fetish, for sure.
Absolutely. I think we're scared of things that we think we don't have, right? Because, or scared of things that we just don't know. We don't have a definition for it. And it is much easier to make fun of something, right? Or reject it than it is to do an assessment of yourself and see like, well, where does that show up for me? But when we do broaden that definition up a bit, like you said, to make it much more inclusive to all of the things that we have strong sexual desires about, then, people actually do feel like, oh, I may have found my tribe. And that's when things get healthy,
right?
Where you find safe places to talk about it, to explore it, to learn how to do these things properly. That's where we come in.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you feel like, based on that definition, then most people have a fetish, whether or not they feel comfortable enough to claim it?
Absolutely. The funniest thing that we use when we're doing these workshops, right? And we're asking people like, share some common fetishes. And of course, the first like feet, we get that. Okay. Spanking. Okay, cool. Got that. And, people are just like, you'll see them, they'll cross their hands and they're rejecting, like, I don't have no weird, that's the word that comes off, like, weird sex behavior. And King will go, are you an ass or titty man? And it's like, titties all day, man. Titties all day. Boom. There's your fetish, right? Yeah. And then it's like, really? And you take it down a little further. What about breasts? I love women with big breasts. I love women with large areolas. I love women who still are lactating. Okay. Now we're talking. Now we're getting into how specific and strong these desires can be about an objectification of the body. So you may be thinking like, this person who does all this work around the decolonization of sex and kink, talking about fetishes and allowing, talking about the objectification of body parts is very different than you as a human. So as a human, you cannot be fetishized because it's all about a particular object. A human being is not an object. We are human. So if someone says, I have a Black person fetish, they have turned that person into an inanimate object. And that takes your humanity away. Then therefore you are operating in a very unethical sense. So I just kind of want to point that out because sometimes it's just like, well, I thought fetishes were bad when it comes to people and their body parts. It's like, how you're utilizing that. And then also we want to pay attention to like our historical context around these things. Can something that would be a sexual desire come across as a sexual, like almost like an assault to that person in the way that we're describing them in context, right? So I think that, we can be very inclusive of that word, but we can also be very sensitive to what that means to different people and their bodies and their humanity.
Absolutely. Like I'm so happy that this is what we're talking about and that you brought that up because it could be such a empowering word if fetish is like, no, my fetish is like big boobed woman, big breast, whatever. And it's like, that's okay. That's so great. But we also need to know when it crosses a line and what that boundary is and how it gets unhealthy. And then educating people around that. Because like, it's totally healthy to have a fetish. That's fine. Let's embrace that. Let's break down that stigma. But let's draw a boundary and educate ourselves about what is too far. And so I think that's so great to bring up that knowledge around this too, especially for young people. Like before starting this work, fetish was like, ooh, cringy word, bad, only weird people have fetishes type of a thing. But it's like, no, let's talk about it and let's draw that boundary. Because it's the boundary that we're talking about that is cringy and bad when you cross that over. So I think this is so
That's
great.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I had one more question kind of. So then what would be the difference between a sexual fantasy and a fetish? Or is there a difference? Are they the same thing?
That's a great question. I think so I would say you can have a fantasy that includes fetishes. right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Part of your fantasy can be, I'm like, oh, yeah, what is my fetish right now? It could be like, I have one. So I just got done doing this on OnlyFans earlier today. I am interested in how I can get my submissive to, I want to prostitute him in a virtual fantasy like way. Let me choose my words carefully. I want to share him, and we can't do that in the time of COVID, right? And so I was thinking today, like, oh, it would be such a fantasy if I could just like send him to one of my other sex worker girlfriend's house and like have him like clean her house or something like that. Like what if, so it's a fantasy, but in the fantasy is the fetish of a submissive. It's the fantasy of domestic work. It's like all of these fetishes are within that fantasy. And so just so you guys know, if you're wondering, like, so how did this play out? I sent him to her OnlyFans page for her to use him however she wanted to today, virtually, digitally. Yeah,
so cool. I love that. Oh, that's awesome. That's one way to figure it out,
isn't it? Yeah. And I got to like play this idea out of it. So but a fantasy can also be like, let's just say this was a lover of mine from from far away, and I was just sharing. I'd love for you to just like magically pop up at my doorstep, and we open the door and we start kissing, and it's a fantasy. And maybe if the big turn on is the element of surprise of him showing up to my door, then that's the fetish, or the kiss. I have an oral fixation. So yeah, the two are separate, but there's definitely fetishes that come within our fantasies.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that definition. We've been talking about sexual fantasies in a previous episode and since then. So I love when we can kind of all put it together and be like, this is how this fits.
Because there's so many layers to everything within our sexuality. So yeah, thinking you have it all figured out, like, oh, that's just my fantasy. And then you exclude like what parts of the fetish played in. And it's like, oh, maybe my fetishes don't have to be in my fantasy. They could be in my real life. And so I'm glad that we touched on that definition. That's so, it's good. Good stuff.
And I'm sure this has come up in other discussions perhaps as well. Our fetishes that either show up in our fantasies or our fetishes that we just think about, or things that we really haven't manifested into like acting out your fantasy or acting out that fetish. I think it's important to let people know that some things are really comfortable in our heads. Like some things will live there forever. Some of the things I want to do to my exes that, like I'm not going to do those things to them. I'm over them. I promise, guys. I'm over them. But think about it, right? So many things in our life, like there's many things that we would say like, oh, I wish I could like jump on a plane and do this and do that. And it's like, yeah, I'd never do that. But it plays out nicely in our head. Absolutely. But when it comes to our sex, we sometimes feel like, oh shit, if I thought it, I must mean I got to do it. Like, no. Sometimes it's like great. Like some of my fantasies, I don't want them to actualize in real life because I know someone's going to mess it up. Because like everybody has their 100%. Lines right, and everybody is like good chemistry.
Yes.
The temperature is good. I don't want to mess that up. It's my go-to. And if I try to actualize it and somebody messes it up, I'm going to have to come up with another one. So it's okay. Even some of our fetishes, I remember seeing something and going like, damn, like that's so hot. It so turns me on. But if somebody ever fucking spit in my mouth and then asked me to spit it back in theirs and spit it back in mine and I spit it back in theirs, no. So good to watch, bad to do.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, that was
for me.
That was a huge question that I had around fantasies too, which is like, what does it mean if I never want it to come out of my head? And does that mean that I secretly, I'd have to get comfortable actually doing it? Or can this just be in my head? Oh, I love that.
It's like you have an amazing imagination, or you have a great like spank bank in your head for the times that you need to access it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure. And, we see this when we tell a lover like, oh, like that looks really hot. And then it's like, oh, is that what you want? Like, do I need to change? Do you like those kind of people? Like, it's like, no. It's just nice. It's just nice to think about.
Right.
But I like what I have, or I'm good with where we are right now.
Right. That's so true. It's like, do not mess up the perfect scene in my head because you will fuck it up. It is so good in my head.
It's so good in my head.
Yeah.
And I show up like I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so funny.
If you have decided, like, yes, this is something I want to do in real life, how do you bring that up with a partner? Like, if it's the first conversation you're having around, like, kink or fetish, anything like that, like, how do you bridge that conversation? That sounds scary.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple of tools. I definitely think that one of the main things is like forget the how part as much as this part. Most of the time when we're saying why we don't say things is because we're afraid of what the reaction is going to be. We're afraid of judgment, right? And so if we could just figure out like, okay, I love this thing. I think I love this thing, and I want to share it with my partner. That first like pause of like, I can't say that, or, oh shit, I got to tell, like, ooh, how am I going to say that? Explore that part. What are you afraid of in that moment? Right? Because that is really going to help you decide how you need to approach it. Usually my first thought is like, like he's going to think I'm crazy. Right. So before, for me, it's like, let me get a little bit more information so I could explain this through. Let me also explain it in a way that my partner understands how I want to participate in it. So I'm not just going to be like, I don't know, triple anal penetration. What do you think? And without context. Right. But if I say, I've been thinking, I would really like to use my dildo to be one of the many penetrators in a room. That takes on a whole different picture, right? So one, like even sitting with it yourself and becoming a little bit more clear, or as clear as you can get with how you want to like paint this picture to your partner, so their imagination isn't going left field.
Right.
The other thing too is that part of you that goes, oh my gosh, like they might reject me or they might judge me. And so we're looking for the reaction. Like when I say triple anal penetration, and like if you go like this, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
They're not
going well. Not going well.
Not us.
Yeah.
When I tell my clients about anticipate a shocking reaction, so that way you've been thinking about this for like 2 years, probably by the time it's coming out your mouth. Your partner is just hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And so their reaction is not immediately a rejection. It's not immediately shame or judgment. It's just, I just learned something new.
Yeah.
Right. And being okay with allowing, because a lot of times we'll be like, so I'm thinking about this. And our partner's like, oh. And we're like, so you don't want to do it? It's like, I haven't even had a chance to like think it through.
Right.
So allowing your partner also time to process it, time to ask questions. So it may sound like more of a conversation of, I want to share something that I've been interested in, or I think I'm interested in, or something that's been turning me on lately. And please don't feel like you have to say yes, no, or maybe. I just want to share it with you. And then if you're open to talking about it, we can talk about it now. If you want to talk about it after you process it, we can talk about it a little bit later. So you're setting the stage for success for both of you, not to get a raw, visceral reaction to something that you feel truly sensitive about and that your partner is hearing for the first time. The second thing that I like to do is I like to trade porn with my partners. So that way I have a little bit of a buffer between me and my fantasy. And it's like, hey, can I share something explicit with you? Yes, share it. What are your thoughts about it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Where did you see yourself in it? Where do you see me in it? And so now we are talking about something that neither one of us have to be attached to. And we're allowing the performers to give us a model of what I have been perhaps, like kind of craving.
I think those are such great tools to have, especially when you're talking with a partner. And the first tip that you talked about, because like for me, I could be so interested in something explicit that was just shared with me, but I have no idea how to like tell you that right now. So leaving space to be like, no, you don't have to say anything. Just watch. and let me know later, because I could be like, fuck yeah, in my head, but I don't know how to like tell you that. So I think that's a great, it's a great skill to work on, of leaving space in general. And so are these tools that you work with as a master fetish trainer? Like what does that look like with couples or individuals? And are these the tools that you help them implement?
Yeah, actually, I'm using more of these tools in therapy, more so than anything. Usually, when people are coming for fetish training, they have probably had some of these conversations already, and it has either like gone terribly wrong, and they're like, "We need a professional," right? Or it's gone really well, like, yeah, super interested, but like, how do we do this shit, right?
Okay, logistics.
So we want people. How people really explore these things. Some, like, I'll give you a real common one, and I'll use couples for example, but we definitely work with singles and couples. A couple will say, my partner really wants me to choke them. My partner really wants me to spank them or to degrade them. And I don't feel comfortable doing that because, I was raised, all my life, like, don't do those things to people, right? Or I don't feel the attraction to, like, I don't feel turned on by causing pain. And so I'm not exactly sure how we can, and so we'll flesh out, first of all, what it is that partners are getting from some of that activity. Like, what does breath play do for your partner? How does spanking increase endorphins and dopamine in the body, so that partners can actually understand that, no, your partner is not asking you to abuse them. They are actually can derive pleasure through pain if done properly. This is how. Most of the time people have like this, like, oh, okay. So it's like that deep tissue massage that hurts so good. Yes, that's it, right? But the only thing, it's like a deep tissue massage that feels so good, right?
It's like a deep tissue.
Yes, that one. Helping them to even just understand like the science of some of these things, why it would even be exciting. Because asking your lover, like, why would you want that done to you? How? I don't understand that. That feels so judgy. It feels right. But asking a professional, help me understand why people, lots of people, right? So now we found our tribe again, enjoy this. That's usually one. Or two, helping, where can we meet in the middle? Maybe we're hearing, you're using words like spanking and slapping and those type of things. Are you asking for domination? Can we talk about domination that doesn't involve physicality? Can we talk about domination where your partner says you've been bad and you smack yourself and you at the direction of your partner, but not under the hand until your partner either feels comfortable or maybe never. This is the dynamic that works for you. Sometimes it's, I'm never going to want to do that. And the other partner going like, I don't want anybody doing anything to me that they don't want to do. And that's like me and King going, we'll do it.
Yeah. And I will enter. Thank you.
And insert professional. And so we create all kinds of experiences. And sometimes there are things that, maybe we don't do where there, it's not in our wheelhouse, but helping to connect people to other professionals, other experiences. Most of our clients, we have been holding their hands since their bachelorette party. And we've been in their lives over these 10 years. We've seen their babies be born. We've seen them graduate from having a little like toy party to like going on these full on swinger BDSM cruises. And I'm like, we did that. We created that pathway.
Yeah, you did. That's amazing. I love that. And I love the problem solving. I love like wanting to make sure that everyone's happy. I think you said something earlier talking about how like our biggest fear when we're bringing these things up is that they're going to think we're weird or there's something wrong with us. There's going to be that shame. And so I think leaving that space, having these resources, being willing to problem solve really like it takes that fear away a little bit. Maybe not all the way because I'm like, it's still scary, but I think knowing that those things are in place is so amazing.
A part of being a master fetish trainer, does that mean that you and King step in as well? Like you can do hands-on work with couples or individuals?
Yeah, definitely. In the areas that we specialize in and have trained in, I think that is really important, is knowing our limits.
Okay.
I remember talking recently to another dominatrix, and we were like doing an IG live, and someone was asking about electroplay, and I mentioned some like a violet wand. I was like, like a violet wand, and this other dominatrix messaged me, and she said, like, do you know about this other? I can't even think of the name, but it's like a top of the line, like all the way to the top electroplay. And I said, actually, I'm not familiar with it. Most of my clients are coming in at a more of an entry level, mid-level of play. And when and if they graduate, like now I know who to send them to,
Yeah,
right? Because I don't need to know everything. I just need to know where I can find these things and how to walk people safely through. So yeah, there are times when King and I do enter the scene to create the experience that a client is looking to explore. Oftentimes we have people say, I really, really want to try this, but I want to know for sure that I'm in a safe space. I don't want to like get to know you and like, like ask you how your day was. I want the thing. So that way, when I'm out there dating or going to dungeons or going on these things, I know what safe protocol is. I know what I should feel like, what I shouldn't feel like, because I've had this done. Going back to that massage example, I had like every one of my little young boyfriends give me a massage. And then when I finally went to go to a professional, I was like, oh my God, what were these little boys doing? What were they doing?
God,
That was not a massage. You were literally rubbing my dead skin cells.
Just blowing them all over my body. I don't need that.
Blowing them all over my body. Right. You don't even know where my muscles were. But do you see how you know what to expect when you do have an experience with a professional? And so oftentimes we do help create those scenes and those safe spaces for people to be able to then later go and assess on their own. I'm good. This feels comfortable. This is the feeling that I am looking for. This is what my trainer did. Do you do those things? So we, are helping people make discernment out in what can be really scary is dating and kink.
Absolutely. What a safe way to start engaging in your fetishes. I think that's great because I exactly with your example, I would not try to get to know someone on the street so that they could give me a massage. I would go to someone a professional so that they could give me a proper, safe, appropriate massage. And we just don't think about sex and learning sex in that way. So I think it's great just sharing the different avenues that we can find to learn more about ourselves, which is the bottom line. You're learning more about yourself.
Absolutely.
Do you mind talking about some of like what you specialize in or some of the common fetishes that you do work with?
Yeah. So for me, I focus mostly as a psychological dominatrix. I enjoy the brain as a muscle. It's, it definitely is related to my background as a therapist. Like it has always been my interest even before therapy, of like what motivates people and how can I have an impact on how people behave? Right. So being in these consensual dominatrix, dom and sub dynamics has been incredible for me to allow my imagination, allow me to pull my skill set, my professional skill set in, allow me to help clients and my personal subs as well, push their boundaries to their best self. So I specialize in what I specialize in general. Like I am an educator. I am a solution-focused therapist. I like helping people find their edge, find whatever their next level is, and being able to do that in a kink space. Like that's my shit. We also specialize in impact play using multiple different tools, whether household items, your hands, or some serious, whether floggers, canes, what have you, how to safely deliver impact play to the body in a way that is, again, that pleasure for that pain, where we derive pleasure from pain, or for those that really do enjoy pain. Those are some heavy hitters for us. We also specialize in the sapiosexual, so helping people incorporate the things that they're interested in their cerebral world into their sex. Oh gosh, let's see what else. We definitely do a lot of dom sub dynamics.
Okay.
So helping people safely enter whether 24/7 dynamics or just scenes of how to be a responsible, responsive, and safe submissive, and then also how to be a caring and responsible dom.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of our wheelhouses.
And when you said cerebral, that long word,
the sapiosexual.
Yes. Does that just mean any interests in our minds and working that into your sexual play?
Yeah, it does. So really, a sapiosexual is someone that is aroused by the intelligence of a partner. And that intelligence is completely subjective, right? So it can be like, I had a great conversation. This person was able to keep up with my wit. Or we talked about interesting things. That in itself, there's a scene that King and another model just did. It's called Ethical Sluts, where they sat and they talked about a philosophy concept, and then through talking about that philosophical concept and really getting like each other turned on by like, wow, like you have a brain and it functions and it's attached to a hot body, like, oh, you're full human. They had this discussion and pointed out some key aspects of this particular philosophy that they were reviewing. And then he had her act it out in her body when they were doing this full sexual scene. So there was a aspect that was specifically about stillness. And so taking that conversation that they had about stillness and then actually putting it and it manifesting in her body to be still during some like serious, like hardcore play. It's like, wow, I could have like aced college if I had a master fetish trainer.
Only the subjects were broader. I would understand.
Like that quadratic equation would have been so much easier to remember if I was bent over, but so that would be a sapiosexual example.
Wow, that's a whole other universe. I love that.
I love how you're holding yourself as the academic that I know you are.
Just like, whoa. That's just so crazy. That's insane. I love that. It's just so much you can learn about different and like people who might feel like, oh, that really turns me on, but why? And now it's like finding these different, like exactly your tribe, like you're saying, like your new understanding, people that just get you. That's so cool. So out there. I love it.
We wanted to get into specific fetishes a little bit more that people might want to start trying. Impact play was one that you touched on and that we were very interested in. So we'd love to talk a little bit more about that. How do you recommend somebody start?
So for starters, I love the idea of trying things on yourself before allowing someone else to try them on you or trying them on someone else, right? So when you think of impact play, we just like automatically like see whoever our perfect person is like doing something to us or us doing it to them, right? Just take one step back. How do you feel slapping yourself in the face? Right. And this is a tool that I use with all of my soon to be submissives. It lets me know first, for starters, one, if they're like hesitant, they like the anticipation, or they will like the anticipation. If they go, okay. Like paying attention to that body language. Okay, that hesitation, there's something there for me. Anticipation is likely to get this person riled up. When they hit themselves, do they do a little light tap? Oh yeah, they're not ready for the big boys. Yeah. You already know you're seeing their relationship with pain right there in itself. Do they go all in? Okay, I take that as, they've either done this before, they love pain, or they're trying to impress me. All three things that I need to learn more about, right? Okay. 3, after they do it, how did that make you feel? If you can see the sadness or shame coming across their face, are they really ready for this type of play? Does the play need to be introduced in a way that is specifically about, I'm going to hit you so I can get your body to release some endorphins and dopamine because it's trying to take care of that pain? Or do I need to hit you and make sure that we don't use any type of degrading language, any type of humiliation, because I can already see shame coming over your face? So before, like, why would I want to strike someone and then go, oh shit, they're not ready for this? Yeah. When I can so much more allow them to have that experience with themselves and then ask questions to know where I might fit into that. Then the reverse of that is when you're trying it on yourself, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it allows you to have the language to tell your partner, I smacked myself a couple of times and I just can't get hard enough. Okay. Ready for, some big girl.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Or I smacked myself or I spanked my butt and it triggered me and it made me think about when I was a little girl and got spanked. I thought I was going to like it and I really didn't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why traumatize someone when we can actually then instead have a conversation? So that to me is number one. The second thing is if you're like past all those points, all that, thank me, I'm ready, right? Use your hands first. Sometimes we like are quick to go for a belt or whatever, a paddle, a flogger. Like those are awesome tools. But if you don't know how it feels to strike someone, and how hard, like if it leaves a little prickly feeling on your hand, you're going to be much more cognizant of how much to the intensity that when you actually have a tool attached. And so I much rather have that direct connection to a person's body and them have a direct connection to my body first before you have something in between us that's likely to have more force and no connection to, or direct connection to the person swinging it. So those are just some quick tips. Yeah.
Those are great quick tips because I would never smack myself first or do something to myself first to see if I like it. But all of those points you brought up about, is it going to trigger you? Are you upset? Is this going to totally scar you if it happens first in the bedroom where you don't feel like you have enough say, And that makes perfect sense. For doing it to yourself first.
My one question that came up for me was like determining like how hard you want to get smacked or like have somebody smack you. Like if you have, done it to yourself, you have a pretty good idea and you're with your partner, like logistically, how do you like convey the like hardness of it? Do you tell them to like start lighter and then we'll work our way up? Or like, do you have them test on your hand or a pillow?
Punch this pillow. Show me how hard.
All of those things.
Okay.
All of those things, if it's your first time, like accuracy, right? You want to be accurate.
Yeah.
Right? There are parts of our body that cannot and should not be straight. So it is important, like if you're working with a partner that you are like, start low. We use universal safety words. We use red, yellow, and green. Okay. So I'll start with my submissive little love taps. I call them little love taps. And that doesn't, it doesn't, some people feel like, oh man, like she's not going to think I'm serious with these little love taps, right? Please, what you're really doing is building anticipation. If you're spanking my butt like this, I'm like, oh shit, when is he gonna really turn his hand back? Right? But we have this idea again in entertainment. They don't show you the warm up to somebody getting like this. Like RFF, Royal Fetish Films doesn't, but oftentimes when we're all on set, when I'm for another company, they'll go like, hey, can you warm up the submissive? And then we'll start rolling once you feel like we're there. So we might be warming up for like good 5 or 10 minutes and then the camera turns on and all you're seeing is like, I'm like, I want to be able to take it like that. Like, you need a warm up. So the universal safety words that we use are red, yellow, and green. So I could be here doing these little light love taps and I'm asking my submissive, what is your color? And they're like, green. Okay, so I can go a little, what's your color? Yellow. Okay, good. I'll take it down a notch. You see? So yeah, it is great to build up in anything that we do. Anything. When you think of regular sex, like I don't know about you, but don't go just jamming anything in me.
No.
There's going to be a couple of steps. Like,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Rub me down.
Yeah.
It's so important to highlight the warm up, and because again, like you say on videos or whatever you're watching, you don't see that, and that's oftentimes where people get their most knowledge. Sometimes is from watching different videos. So it's like warm up is so important, and yeah, that's perfect to do with your partner. And I like, what's your color, instead of saying, is this green, yellow, red? Am I stopping?
Yeah.
Am I going? It's like, what's your color?
What's your color?
Where are you at?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And you know, the other thing too, people will often say like, well, I don't want to keep checking in. I feel like the person is going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Check in as much as you want. Because one, the liability is on you. You are literally striking someone's body.
Yeah.
You are applying pain on purpose with consent. But the liability is on you. So it is in your best interest, one, for your experience and their experience to check in. The other thing too is it's a great way of keeping your sub grounded and making sure that they are in the space. They have not left to trauma brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or that they can breathe, that they're not in a compromised situation, and that they are also an active participant in being responsible for how their body is responding. So if I'm spanking the shit out of you and you keep saying green, and then at the end you're like, that was too hard. That's for you to process on your own, because I did my part.
Right.
You know? And the other reason why I love the colors too is because like when you're getting smacked, you can't be like, yeah, a little bit lighter, maybe more fingertips to the left, to like, no, like I could say yellow, slow the hell down, or red, so we can completely stop. And then I can give you my feedback when I'm fully clear and not in a compromised situation.
That's what I was going to say too. I feel like that check-in is another way. Like for me, that would mean like, oh, you're emotionally here with me too because you're supporting me, but we're also having this really fun play where I feel like a submissive. So that would be more of a turn on for me to feel like I was being checked in with.
And if it's a like confidence issue, the way you did it when you were saying like, what's your color? You did not lack any confidence. You clearly knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
So like if you can go into it knowing, like having those kinds of phrases that are going to keep you in that confidence, in that like dom role, while still making sure you're checking in. I feel like that's so important because you don't want to get out of it and sound like a weenie. Yeah. But you still need to do those check-ins.
Right. What would be some of your first
That's right.
Yeah. Like beginner tools to incorporate, tools or instruments in impact play? What would be your first couple ones that you would suggest people to try out?
So after the hands, I love the idea of going to household items, because sometimes people are running out and investing in some pretty expensive, equipment. And it's beautiful. There's lots of fun stuff that's out there. But if you're not really sure if you want to explore this for long periods of time, then it can even be a little like discouraging to buy, like when you go out and you buy all the things and you're like, I don't even know how to use any of these things, right? Or I don't really like this. And then every time you look at your toy drawer, you look at this thing that like either you feel like you failed or you feel like, what a waste of money. That's what I would be thinking. So for me, it's like household tools, like a spatula, a belt, a book, and where books are cool because you have all different intensity sizes and things of that sort.
Paperback, hardback, all of them.
Now you're thinking.
Encyclopedia.
What was that?
I love it. Rubber bands, hair ties.
Okay.
Yeah, that feeling. A towel, a wet towel. I'm just looking. Y'all tell me. Look around your office. What do you see? What do you see in your office that could be used as a nice thinking tool?
Well, we just see crystals in our office.
We have a lot of crystals on our desk.
But I was thinking like wooden spoon. Like that was what was coming to mind with me. You have your curtains.
I have curtains.
You could whip them.
Curtain rod.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sure can.
That
Legos
comes out.
up there.
Yeah,
There's
we
some
have-
Legos.
My fiance's Legos are
Just
up there.
throw them at your ass, you know?
You step on a Lego, that fucking hurts.
Hell yeah, I have a 2-year-old. You think I don't know? So yeah, just those household items. Of course, you want to make sure it's in good repair, so no one gets like there's not like a piece of metal off
like
the
a
belt
splinter.
or something along those lines, or but I think those are really fun items, and they're also not intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that can keep us from exploring, because we'll see like King Noir doing like figure eights and Florentines with his floggers and tossing them to me, and I'm like on the floor and like, we practice that shit. Like, come on, our family eats based on if we catch that flogger or not. So
So you're catching it.
we're catching it. Exactly. Nobody's missing meals over here. But in your play, it should not feel intimidating. You're not gonna, it's like anything else that we want to strive towards. We don't just go and like pick up, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a sport and I'm really like failing right now. But
Basketball.
whatever it is.
I don't pick up basketballs. I can't do that.
There you go. You got to start. You either have to start with lessons, or you got to start with a very like kind of intramural, right?
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
And then if you realize that I have a passion for this, or I'm really good at this, then you can start graduating to more things. And I think that is really healthy for any sexual journey or exploration, is not to have like these. I mean, it's great if you have a goal in mind, but a goal means that you also have a whole plan of point A to that goal. Sometimes we're like, I have a goal, so I'm just going to do the goal. Like, that's not how it works. You're going to do the steps to get to that goal.
100%.
Absolutely. The warm up.
Yeah.
Always with the warm up.
Warm up. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved getting deeper into back play. I think those are great tips. Those are something that I feel like is a little bit more common for people who are just starting out. It's like, oh, I spanked my ass a little bit. So I think those type of tips are just so important to talk about, and I love it. But we have reached the part in our episode where we like to do
Homework for honeys.
Hey.
where we like to do and talk about one actionable step we can take from all of this information and apply it into our lives. So, Jasmine, would you do the honor of assigning us some homework for this week?
Yes, I will. Actually, I have two small. I came with one, but since we talked about so much here, I do want to give two pieces. So one is going to be, of course, the psychological aspect, and then the two will be the physical. All right. So the one that I came up with for the psychological aspect is, a lot of times there's sexual anxiety around trying anything new. This anxiety, it doesn't even have to be sexual anxiety. You could be listening to this and thinking, oh my God, that sounds so great. But the part where you said talk to your partner, oh, that's scaring me, right? Or like, oh yeah, impact play sounds cool. And then when you said the belt, like now I'm all screwed up about it. So we do bring those anxieties into our sexual experiences. And I don't often think that we have tools to use to resolve that anxiety. Usually we're trying to just push through. And when we are trying to push through uncomfortable feelings in sex, a lot of times we check out. And I do see a lot of people asking how they can be more present in sex. And I do feel strongly that is because we're bringing anxieties, fears, judgment into our space that don't allow us to focus on pleasure. So I want our listeners to kind of think about a container that they can bring into any sexual experience. Maybe it's visualize, maybe it's a glass container that you can see what's inside. Maybe it's a basket that someone described, a hamper that has a lid on it. Like, you find your container that you want to put in your hoe bag, and you want to take it with you where you go and put it down wherever you're about to have a sexual experience. It's imagination we're using, but if you actually need a physical one, go for it. this container is where, prior to engaging in any sexual activity, you're going to put those fears, those anxieties, those things, stressors. It might be a bad day. It might be something that you're really, really consumed with, but you need to put it in a container to be able to be present for your sex. So while we're having this little activity, I want you to kind of be thinking about, what are the feelings that normally come with me for my sexual explorations that keep me from having the best time? And those are the things that go in your container. Don't worry. You can pick up all your fear, all your shame, all your sadness, all your whatevers, all your anxieties at the end. Make sure your container is safe, because you do need to work on the shit that's in there. But during your happy, sexy time may not be the right time to try to process those thoughts. So get yourself a nice little container that you feel your problems are safe to be stored in. Enjoy your experience without those, and be willing to pick them back up and work on them in the most appropriate place, which I hope for you is therapy, or with some awesome podcasters like we have here. So that's the psychological homework
I love it.
for your listeners. And the physical one is slap yourselves. Try it. See what shows up, and write a little reflection and share with the ladies at Honeydew how that works for you. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you pass the assignment? Did you fail? We want to know.
Oh, 100%. That was so beautiful. And I love the thought of, because if you can't, I'm going to ruin all of your words with my words, but
no, come on. We can edit this.
Because it's good for people who need something physical, whether it's physical, like you've manifested it in your head, or like you literally carry a jar with you. But that's such a beautiful way to like put all of that in there, because I'm someone that gets so caught up in my head.
Absolutely.
But if you are putting it in that container during that time, what a beautiful space you can open up to slap yourself. And I love it.
Amazing homework.
I enjoy it.
So good. Can you tell our listeners where they can continue to connect with you after the episode?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on all things Jet Set Jasmine. A website is Jet Setting Jasmine, where you will find links to everything from the kinky, XXX, all of our OnlyFans pages, as well as our website, royalfetishxxx.com. And you can also find links to the more therapeutic and sex positive parenting ends of the work that we do on there as well. So it's jetsettingjasmine.com.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
That'll all be in the show notes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jasmine. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
There was a ghost in my throat. I got it out. It's fine. Thank you. Blessed be. Thank you so much to Jet Setting Jasmine for being on the podcast today and just having that conversation to really educate us and our listeners about what a fetish is. And thank you so much to our listeners for sticking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a few extra minutes or seconds, really, it's not going to take that long. If you could head over to Apple Podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe to Honeydew Me Podcast. That helps us so, so much. We love to know what you think of the show, as long as it's good.
As long as it's all positive things.
Yeah.
My ego can't take negative
we
things.
don't like criticism.
I don't like criticism at all. Ever.
We also don't like mean things said to us.
Shocker.
Shocker.
Anyway,
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.